Welcome back to the Indiewood Podcast, a podcast about making indie films and the many hats that filmmakers have to wear in order to get those films made. My name is Yaroslav. I'm a writer, director, editor, and cinematographer. And with me this month, I have the talented Jamie Parslow.
Hi.
Who is a director, writer, producer, and cinematographer, and like fully fledged in all those things. You've done quite a bit of those things in full force.
I hope so.
You've gone to film festivals with a movie you've produced. You've gone to film festivals with a movie you've written and directed. And as a day job, you work for a big company in the video game space.
Yes.
Shooting for them.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And so we've been talking all about your film, your short film, Black Hole, that did really well in film festivals, apart from other films that did really well in film festivals that you've done. And that's how we met when Black Hole was at Dances with Films. And so we talked about film festivals. We talked about making movies. But I think the one question kind of that we've talked off mic about was how to kind of pursue your career as a filmmaker outside of those two things, making a movie and going to a film festival.
Yeah. Sort of getting into the room is what we were talking about. Sort of like getting to talk with big wigs. And so that's my blind spot. That is my biggest blind spot, I think, is
And for our listeners at home, getting into a room is kind of the phrase we use when we talk about getting in front of producers. Into the room where producers are. That's kind of what we're talking about. So we can pitch a movie, so we can pitch our show.
Yeah.
And for me, from my experience, that has always been surrounding feature films. I'm a feature film writer. I've pitched a lot of feature films. I don't do TV, and for TV, it's a little bit different. Tell me about your experience putting together projects that you aren't really going to shoot yourself, but you really want to go out and pitch it to a producer and get a producer on board. What's your experience been so far?
Not. I think
haven't done that.
Yeah, kind of not really. I think I was an experience I had some years ago where I did actually get into a room at Sony of all places. But the only thing is that it's really funny. It was because of the company that I was working for. So we had a relationship. Loot Crate had a relationship with Sony, and so Starship Troopers had their 25th anniversary coming out, which they also had a sequel movie coming out. And Casper was a friend. Casper was dating our friend Jenny at the time.
Casper Van Dien was the actor from the original.
That is correct. Yeah, sorry, buried the lead there. And so it was me and my friend Julian, and it was really just kind of the two of us spearheading this one a little bit. We were trying to find a way to do a short film, because we would do these short films, these monthly short films with the company, and trying to find a way to parlay the original Starship Troopers with the new one, because Casper had not been in either number 2 or number 3. He was coming into number 4. And so we had sort of pitched the idea of doing a short film that would bridge the gap between the two of them. And so we were working with Casper and then Ed Neumeyer, who wrote the original Starship Troopers and RoboCop and things like that. Great guy. And we had all sort of coalesced and we're like, hey, what if we did this short film? So we all went to Sony. We watched the new film. We got an idea about what it was, and then we sort of pitched our concept to like a bunch of execs, like a bunch of Sony execs in the room, and they apparently loved it, and they gave us the go ahead, and we were going to do it and premiere it at Comic-Con, Hall H, weirdly enough. But then the money fell out, as it always does.
Things are ought to do,
yeah. And I never had an opportunity like that again. So that was a weird backward way of getting into the room. Like sort of falling backwards into that thing. Not that we had pitched a feature film or anything, but if we had done a good enough job, who knows? We could have been in Sony's pocket. We could have been able to do a bunch of things, parlay that
into a bigger project.
So that's the only time I ever really got a taste of that. I never got into this, but I used to work on a web series back in the day called Fallout Nuka Break. And a bunch of those guys before I moved out here had gone actually to Sony to go pitch a concept for a TV show for Fallout long before the new one came out.
Okay.
And that didn't go anywhere. But that's the only other experience I've been tangential to in that scenario. And what I've been told is effectively you just need an agent and a manager to kind of get through that.
I'll share 2 experiences that I've had with kind of getting into the room.
Yeah.
One of them is related to that manager agent route, and then the other is kind of my own doing. So yeah, just get repped, and then they'll send you on meetings.
That's so easy. It's so simple. How do you get repped? I want to know that part first.
So for me, I graduated from UCLA from their master's program, and then we have this thing called.
Got to go to UCLA.
Yeah, got to go to grad
I'm not going to do at 30.
Go to Harvard.
Okay,
right. Go to Yale. And then we were part of Showcase, which is this thing all the students put together.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of a screenplay competition, but at the time, I think every year is different. And for our year, at the time, everybody who attended the festival or attended the Showcase and competed in Showcase would reach out to like 5 to 10 judges. And so they would be like, we would reach out to production companies, we would reach out to managers, and this is something they were aware of.
Yeah.
So a lot of people from like a lot of really big agencies and production companies read our scripts and judged them.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And so
you had readers read the script.
No, they read.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they read like 1 or 2 scripts. And so then they judged them. And so that was kind of, parsed into a competition, and somebody won. And then so I had the opportunity to win with 4 other people for my category, which was drama. And so my manager sent me on generals when I got repped, and we call that a water bottle tour. Say that 10 times fast, because they give you like, they'll go, do you want a bottle of water?
Yeah.
And you kind of sit there on the couch with a little bottle of water. And so initially, like, that got me into the room, quote unquote. Those conversations, no one preps you for those conversations, because every conversation is a little different. Some are very serious. They're like, this is our mandate. This is what we're looking for. What do you have? And it's very kind of like, to the point.
Yeah.
And then some people just like sit down and go, what's up?
What do you got?
No, not even what do you got.
Oh,
what's up?
And then this.
And then it's like, man.
They want to get like a natural version of
not even. No? They just want to know how you're doing.
Oh.
So
curious.
This is like the one meeting that I sub dreams about is Amblin.
Okay.
Show up, meeting goes great.
Steven Spielberg's hanging out.
Right? Yeah. We sit down and he goes, what's up? And I'm like, huh? I don't know what's up with you. And I started kind of pitching, and I was like, dude, no, just have a conversation with the guy. And it went well. And like, we haven't been in touch since, but great guy, really fun to talk to. But like tensed up so hard.
I bet.
And so there was a couple of meetings where I tensed up quite a bit.
Yeah.
But what I learned from those meetings is when you first go into a general, if you're really lucky to get one, just take that opportunity to make a friend.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Even if it's Amblin, if you don't click as a friend, don't worry about it.
No, honestly, that should be just how filmmaking is generally. I mean, you're going to be working with these people for potentially the rest of your life. Yeah. So like friends. Yeah. All day.
So of the like 10 generals that I went out to, I think I'm only in contact with one person.
Oh, very fun.
And like we get lunch every 6 months. We chat, like we see each other, at bars every now and then.
Do you buy him lunch?
No, he buys me. It's a write-off. Yeah. And he asked me what I'm doing, and I pitch him some ideas every now and then. He reads everything I send him, and granted, I don't send him a script every week, but like we're friends now.
Yeah.
And like I care about him as a person.
Yeah.
And so that's what brings you back into the room, right? Is that friendship. And so
that's cool.
I'm no longer with my manager.
Yeah.
And so from that experience, from meeting, a dozen people over the course of 10 meetings, only one person is still in my life.
Oh, wow.
And they're in a really like nice production company. They're still doing stuff. Like he's great. Like I love talking to him. I love hearing his ideas and about, his thoughts about the industry. And so that's one way of kind of getting in the room. Get a manager, get repped, which we'll circle back to.
Yeah.
Go on generals and try to find a person you connect with.
Yeah.
On like a really personable level.
Yeah,
forget movies, forget whatever. Like
absolutely.
just talk with them,
Yeah, that's the thing is that I get me in a room and I can pitch.
Exactly.
I'm so good at that side of the thing. I really am. And like I do this at work and I do this in general, and I just, talk to my wife. I rant at her about my concepts, and she's just like, okay. But like, there's passion behind it, and it's not even about you. It's just like, it's not even about you or your project. You're just excited about something, and there's a really fun, natural way to get into those types of things. And I'm always like, man, if I could just open the door. I I like talking to people and I like having conversations with people when it's not like a formal weirdness. And that's always sort of been, it's like you sort of see in your mind's eye, like I already know I can just do that part. That's not the hard part. The hard part is like finding your way. It's like thinking about your career path. You know what I mean? Like you don't really know. You can say my career path is ba 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 ba, but in this industry, I've gone from being, I was a union key grip for however many years to being an AD who was almost union at one point, to being an editor at an edit house, to being a producer, to being a director. Now I'm weirdly a cinematographer. Like, that's not a career path.
It's not, no.
That's just things you're doing.
You're doing things to kind of elevate your craft.
And so like, that's kind of what that feels like. It's a sort of like you're just, you're feeling it out, but there's no like, and maybe you do have the answer to this, but in my purview, there's never been like, you do this, that gets you this, and then you are there.
I mean, kind of. It feels like that when you look back on it, because right now,
of
having
course,
these relationships with these producers,
right?
Looking back on it, I'm like, oh, well, I had this meeting, I had this thing, and now I just call them every now and then, and be like, I have something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so, kind of moving on to the other non-manager thing, and so the other two production companies that I meet with regularly that I've built up a rapport with, I got those meetings without a manager.
That's great.
And to really succeed in that kind of environment where you're not repped, I think the most important thing, and this feels like a no-brainer, is just you have a good sample.
Yeah.
You know, and then go to screenplay competitions, you submit to the blacklist. And so I met with a company, a big comic book company, one of the big three, not DC or Marvel. And I meet with them regularly, and we're actually trying to work on a project right now, on a feature. I met with them because of the blacklist.
Oh, cool.
Just, out of the blue, I was like, you know what, let me try this. I submitted a script. It did well. It got an 8, and then it got a 5, and everything in between.
Oh, I'm on Reddit. I see how they.
It's all over the place.
Fluctuations.
But producers read 8s. And they read that script and like, we like this writing. We like you as a writer.
Nice.
And I met with them. It was one guy, and then kind of, I think it was his boss at the time. And we talked a little bit about stuff, and I was like, hey, I got a pitch for you. Like, let me like, come back to you with a pitch. And I pitched, and I haven't choked like that in so long. No. They were like, we had this whole meeting set up. It was on Zoom. And I sat down and I go, ugh! Like literally my throat closed up. Oh, man. And then I was like, my heart was pounding in my chest, and I was staring at the screen. I'm like, you're either going to just cry and like fall apart, not cry, like fall apart completely, or you own it. You note it, as meditation people say, and then you move on. So I was like, guys, I'm so sorry. Like I just choked, and they're like, that's fine, don't worry about it. And
that's important. That's like being honest about what you're going through. I've had panic attacks, and I've not in this situation. I don't like going to parties alone because I'll get like a panic attack if I don't have like somebody I know with me.
I hate going to parties when I don't.
Oh man, I have turned around. I've just straight up been like, nope.
Go party.
I'll see it. I'll be like, I'm gonna go back in the car.
I'm not gonna go there.
But so it's good to own it and be like, I did that one time, and I was like, hey guys, sorry, I was there. I had a panic attack. I turned around.
Like, hey,
gotta be honest.
Not my shtick. Yeah. And so like I pitched it to them, and they're like, look, we love the idea, but everybody's doing that because it was based on public domain stuff, and they're like, Netflix has 4 of these.
Oh, funny.
And so. I kind of kept in touch with him, and we met again one-on-one with one of the guys because it was a duo initially.
Yeah.
And all we did for like an hour and a half was just talk about movies.
That's cool.
Talk about the industry. And I was curious about that. I was like, I'm not going to pitch to you because I don't really have anything. Like, I want to learn more about you as a creative, as a producer. I want to learn about what your company's doing. Like, what do you think? Where do you think the industry's heading? And like, I'm actually curious about that. And so, we just shot the shit for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And then he's like, send me some ideas, right? And I was like, cool, yeah, because he's like, I really want to work with you. And I was like, yeah, let me like put some stuff together. I put some pictures together, and he was like, these are great, but like we have this set up here. We've done this already, and it wasn't success. Like I sent him 4 ideas, and they've either done them or someone
Or
else
it's
is
in the
doing
work.
them. It was it was really crazy.
Right.
And then we met again, and we just for an hour and a half, we just talked about movies and stuff.
That's great.
And so like right now we're trying to kind of get this film off the ground because I think we really clicked, like as colleagues, as
Yeah.
friends, acquaintances, whatever you want to call it. So that's, I think, what's really important about
Right.
getting into a room again and again and again, is building these relationships with people that you can come back to.
Yeah, I feel
Right.
like it's part way being an amicable person,
Yeah.
obviously, but we talked about it before. Passion,
Yeah.
passion about the industry, passion about what it is you want to talk about, passion, not even just about your project. It's
Mhm.
just like you having passion. Passion will get you so much equity in
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
world
Yeah.
that like you can just be a total dolt. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're feeling it, you're excited about
Mhm.
something, and people are like this person is going somewhere.
I will kind of
You
add to
know.
that a little bit because I've been passionate with some folks,
Uh-huh.
and I just don't think our aesthetics clicked.
And
Yeah.
that's fine.
And like,
That's yeah.
I'll
I'd rather that actually
yeah, and
sometimes.
having to kind of keep up that relationship was very hard because
Mhm.
I had to kind of meet their energy or their aesthetic or vibe, and it just didn't
Yeah.
mesh.
And that's better that you find that out early than like someone going
Yeah.
get into bed with you and then suddenly you're like, hey guys, we don't see that happened with
Yeah.
me on a I won't name the project, but I worked on a project and me and the writer just did not click, but we
Same.
pushed through it,
Mhm.
and pushing through it led to some not great dialogue
Yeah.
and therefore not great acting and therefore not great, not a great final product. We were happy with the visuals. We were happy with everything except what we wrote,
The thing collaborated on.
like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so, and you
yeah.
got to learn, like, luckily you learn those lessons hopefully you learn those
True.
lessons before you get too big, but
True, 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 true.
but yeah, it's a tough role.
Well, so there's kind of that opportunity that I had through Blacklist
Hmm.
with this production company, and then through that same kind of, what do you call it, outlet,
Okay.
path, I guess.
Sure.
Someone else read my script. So
Oh,
like, coming back to that, just, you have to have a good sample.
yeah.
Someone from a production company overseas read my script,
Yeah.
and like that led to a meeting, and then we
Cool.
just shot the shit for an hour,
Right.
talked about movies, and it was a weird time zone thing because he's in France and I'm in Los Angeles, so it's like 6 p.m. for him, it's like 8 a.m. for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
a very different kind of
I've
vibe
had
because he's like,
those.
wrapping up work. Yeah, yeah. And but we keep coming back to each other, and like there were moments where I didn't talk to him for 6 months,
Mm.
and I reached out to him again. He's like, oh my god, that's right, like let me read the thing,
Yeah,
let me,
yeah.
and it's just building that rapport. And it all started from a good sample,
That's good.
and like letting it out into the world through Blacklist, through competitions, and through, and if it doesn't do well,
Hmm.
like it doesn't mean that it's bad. But this also kind of goes into a conversation about notes, but kind of coming back to managers,
Oh, sure.
you know,
Before you go, would you say that going to competitions and screenwriting is worth the squeeze? Sometimes I hear little baby horror stories,
yeah,
nothing crazy, but just like, oh, I put all this money into something that nobody
yeah.
read. Like, I won't
Mhm.
name the festivals, but like,
When it comes to just your screenplay,
uh-huh.
I think it's different than if you have a movie. If you have a movie, I think there's a broader range of film festivals you can
Yeah,
go to.
yeah,
For screenplays, I think that list is a lot shorter. A
yeah. Okay.
lot
Yeah,
shorter.
yeah,
And I think you can kind of name the competitions on one
yeah.
hand.
Wow.
Nickel,
Nichols.
Slam Dance, I think.
Yeah.
Does Sundance have one? I think it does, right?
It
They have
I think it
some
does.
sort of program for
They
screenwriters.
have a
Yeah.
program for screenwriters. Yes,
Yeah.
I worked on one that won the program, and then we ended up making a movie out of
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
So there's that. There's Austin. Austin is fun, but also the outcome maybe isn't kind of as impactful as
Okay.
Nickel maybe it might
Sure.
be. And that's the few that I can think off the top of my head. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
there's like one or two more that can be
Yeah.
like a lot of fun and bring in kind of a lot of momentum for your project down, afterwards. But yeah, like on one hand, right? That's like
Yeah.
4 or 5.
Wow. Crazy.
And beyond that, though, I think Blacklist has been a really unique opportunity for some
Yeah.
folks. For me, it was successful because I got a really great relationship out of that
Mm-hmm.
that I really cherish. Um, some people don't. Some people get 8s and don't get red and nothing happens, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of luck, which is opportunity meets preparation, you know?
Absolutely.
So you got
Yeah.
to be prepared with that good
I
sample.
think that's my biggest downfall right now is that like I've got one feature with a first draft written and I'm like, I like it. It needs the second draft, but I'm working on the next one and I'm just
Yeah.
gonna make that one
Yeah.
instead. And that's a tough
Yeah.
thing.
But also, like,
But
don't, if you have a draft and you have money to submit to the blacklist, do it
oh, okay.
with a caveat. Because right now with AI, like, there are allegedly certain folks that submit to the blacklist for notes specifically, because I feel like I got really good notes for it. They'll submit to the blacklist, and then it feels like the reader used AI. And so
Oh.
that's been a bit of a risk.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try it again with a buddy of mine. We're going to test it out and feel out the waters and
Okay.
see how it unfolds.
All
But
right.
I did it before AI was a big thing, and I got really great notes, and I got a meeting out of it.
That's great.
2 meetings. So
Yeah.
like, boom, there's a path right
Yeah.
there. Another way is, you know, as you build these relationships at film festivals, you know, like connecting the dots between you and another filmmaker and a guy at a production company, right? Like,
Yeah.
there are those relationships you can kind of explore. And sure, trying to get a meeting with somebody that your friend knows can be a bit more of a nuanced approach.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
you
a
have to be like, hey, I have a script, like, I'd like to meet.
watery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to be a little bit more delicate with that, but it's an opportunity you can explore as well.
Yeah, I had a friend recently reach out to me because there's a connection that I have with somebody with a team that makes movies, and they were like, "Oh my God, everybody says that I should like send them my script because it's just right up their alley." And I was like, "Let me go take a look at that first because I don't want to like." So they reached out to me. They're like, "Can you send my script to them?" And I was like, "I don't feel super great about that, but I'll take a read at your script and I'll
Yeah.
see, you know,
Yeah.
I'll see if it worked." To be fair, script
As
was good.
as the gatekeeper, you
Yeah.
do have the responsibility
Yeah.
of making sure your friends are treated like friends and not
Yeah.
like as a commodity that you can kind of, you know,
Right.
that they're not people of value, right? That you can kind of throw around,
Yeah.
as I said in the last episode.
But yeah, it's this
Yeah.
thing where like you need to, you know, you do need to protect it. And
Yeah.
small anecdote is that the script was good, the pitch was bad.
Yeah.
And I was
Pitches
like,
are hard.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was just like, this is a little too
Yeah.
shilly. Please change this.
And I
But
think, you
yeah.
know, thinking of the word value, I think you need to kind of think about it in a way, not
Mm-hmm.
from the perspective of your career
Yeah.
or what you can achieve, but like the value you bring to a friendship
Yeah.
and the value you get from somebody as a friend, you know?
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
that is the cornerstone of any like production, any film, any like, sure, yeah, there are films out there in the studio system maybe, or, you know, elsewhere that are
Mm-hmm.
made with just a transactional thing. Here's money, make a movie, boom, done.
Yeah.
But from my experience in the indie film space, a majority, if not all, the films are made based on this relationship of
Mm-hmm.
friends, a
Yeah.
friendship, you know?
Yeah, without a
Yeah.
doubt. I think I think you hit the nail on the head there. You know, it's nothing without friends. If it used to be that you would make stuff just via their value and the transactionalness of it, I feel like that's sort of gone a little away now, and it really is like how you vibe with everybody else in a room. And this is not black and white. I know that there are still situations where this definitely isn't the truth, but I find it more and more that we're getting rid of the old guard, and we have been for like 5 to 7 years, which is that old school way of saying, "Oh, you're the PA, shut up and give me my coffee" thing
Exactly.
is
Or
kind
this
of
actor brings in a certain, you know, like
yeah.
weight that can fund your film or make or break it in the box office.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like that, like, you know, you're only worth the value that you give me and not so much that's
Yeah.
sort of dying out a little bit, I hope. And hopefully that this generation and the next generation are like, hey, we just want to make this an equitable place for everybody to succeed and have fun and tell
Yeah.
stories and have a good time
Yeah.
doing it. I think that's the way of the future, and that's the way that movies not only uh can be fun to make, but better. And
Yeah.
movies can be made better because we can be honest, we can be
Yeah.
truthful, we can say this doesn't work, and hey buddy, like I know you're trying to do this, but like, you know, what if you have you thought about this way, instead of just, you know, noting something into the ground by like 15 different
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
execs or whatever.
If you can start a conversation with, hey buddy, you're doing something great.
Yeah.
You're on the right path.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on the right path.
So.
And you know, speaking of paths, you know, coming back to finding an agent and finding a manager, you know, 5 years ago, the advice would have been different, you know, than it is now, because I feel like now nobody knows what's happening.
No.
Nobody knows what's happening in the production companies. Nobody knows what's happening in the studios.
We don't know if we're ever going to work again.
Yeah, the agents don't know what's happening. And you know, yes, stuff is still getting made, but I think we're still trying to find the industry as a whole is still trying to find their footing in whatever this new post-streamer space is.
Sort of crumbling. I don't want to call it imploding, but it's definitely like the corners are crumbling a little bit here and there. This sort of like the footing of the pillars are sort of just like fine, you know, we're seeing cracks in the facade. But that doesn't mean that this stuff is going to stop. It never will stop. It never can stop. But what, you know, what that means for living and working in the industry, you might create a wealth gap. There might be a wealth gap problem there.
Maybe,
or
it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. But you know, 5 years ago, I would have been like, write a great sample, you know, take it to festivals, you know, get it into the hands of a manager, an agent, and they'll read it. And if it's good, they'll kind of believe in you enough to rep you. Now, even if you have a great sample, they might not know what to do with it. They don't need writers right now, you know? And so I think if you are trying to get repped now in 2024, 2025, okay, 2024, let's just say for the next 6 months, I don't think you need to. I don't think you need a rep.
Was that writing though? Or is that like
specifically for writing?
For writing, yeah.
I don't think you need a rep. Even for you know, a film, like go pitch a producer. We can become our own reps, I think, for the time being. I'm sure it'll change in 6 months to a year. But you know, reps are still struggling to kind of find their own.
I will say, so my wife works in the marketing space or the advertising space, and I will say that in order for a director to get in the room, they have to be rep.
Well, I think that's for kind of commercial space, and I think it's a little different.
Yeah.
You know, I'm more familiar with like narrative stuff. I see that because there's a lot of like reward, I guess would be the right word, for commercial work. You know, you get in there, you do 2 days, you're out. Everyone gets a boatload of money.
Yeah,
or at least for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
It used to be like that. Maybe not so much anymore.
It depends.
Content. Yeah. You know, but like if you're looking for commercial work, yeah, that's different though. You know, I feel like the commercial space is definitely unaffected by what's happening with the.
No, it all. I mean, yeah, it's the oldest job in the world.
Yeah,
which is advertising.
Yeah.
Random question. How often are you writing a new feature film? That's the tough part, right?
I think for me, that's a loaded question. Yeah. Because you know,
after you completing,
the last year has been tough because I've been pitching a lot, and you know, life kind of got in the way, and like I'm still writing and kind of doing stuff, but I haven't completed a film since last year. Wow. But I've written shorts. You know, I've written a couple shorts, so that's kind of.
How many have you written in your time?
In my entire career, how many scripts have I written?
Yeah. Features.
Features. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Dang.
Maybe 10. I think 10, dude, and some pilots are in there too. Yeah. And then like, you know,
like floating at 2 right now.
Half a dozen, you know. Well, I went to grad school, and so they really made us write.
They make you.
Yeah. In UCLA, what I liked about the program is they made you write a script in 10 weeks.
So that's why I'm doing this Sundance program thing, because it's just kicking my butt and be like, you got to meet these deadlines.
Yeah.
It's having deadlines is really, really important. Yeah.
Deadlines are good. I think deadlines are very healthy. They keep you they keep you focused on the story instead of kind of getting lost in the creative opportunities. But, you know, in the end, everything is built upon a good sample. If you write a good script, it doesn't have to be like the most amazing script ever. It just has to be a good script that people enjoy reading.
Yes.
That'll get you in the room.
Got it.
Regardless if it's a manager, if it's a producer, if it's a script competition, whatever the room is for you, it starts with a good sample.
I was lucky enough to, because I read a lot of scripts, as opposed to writing them.
Yeah, right.
And I was sharing a script with my friend, and she sent me hers, and I sent her mine, and we were like, let's do the exchange. And this is Hair of the God that I sent her, and she gave me the script, and I was just like, you know what, dude, the note that I want to give you is that this feels like a movie. It feels like a good script. It's written right. It's written well. It feels like you did the right work. And she was like, she told me on my end, she was like, it was a breath of fresh air to read a well put together script that obviously needs some bits of work, but like doesn't make me put this thing down in like 5 pages. You know what I mean? And that's genuinely rare. I will get into a script and be like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of surprising.
But that's a skill I think you develop as you constantly write, and you know, you start a story and you end a story. You know, and I think that's something you pick up with consistency. And so if you feel like you are going to write a screenplay for the first time and it's going to get you in a room, it might. It just might, because everybody has one script in them.
Yeah.
But you know, more often than not, it won't.
No, probably not. And especially if you haven't done the soul searching and the work. Sometimes what we do as artists is we go, no one can tell me how to do the thing that I want to do. And then you find yourself midway through page 25 and you're like, what am I doing? And then you're like, oh, I didn't read how to do this. I didn't learn how to do this. I didn't like exercise the muscle enough. And then you don't know when to sort of push through or what things you have to do in order to get it right. You know what I mean? That's really, really important.
Speaking of getting it right, when we read each other's work and when we talked about scripts and movies, we had a very different outlook on endings. And I'd love to talk to you more about that, but I think we'll have to end this episode for now and then come back next week and chat about ending movies, ending scripts. Because I think we both have a unique point of view that's vastly different, but both are wrong. Wrong.
They're both wrong.
Yeah.
They're both wrong.
Thank you for coming
okay with being wrong.
On the pod, Jamie.
Thank you.
And thank you for everyone for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us at the CFA studio for another series of the Anywood podcast. You can find the podcast wherever you find your podcasts or on YouTube at the Cinematography for Actors YouTube channel. See you next week.
From the CFA network, Cinematography for Actors is bridging the gap through education and community building. Find out about us and listen to our other podcast at cinematographyforactors.com.
Cinematography for Actors Institute is a 501c3 nonprofit. For more information on fiscal sponsorship, donations, because we're tax exempt now, so it's a tax write-off, and upcoming education, you can email us at contact@cinematographyforactors.com. Thanks.